Hello and welcome to Wake and Jake, presented to you by Cushy Dreams. We are going through the Athletics player poll annual. Yeah, I guess they do it every 2.5 months into the season is what they said, which, okay. But a lot of the answers are from spring training, so I don't know. They kind of content dumped on us. It's actually spread across 5 articles, I think, in the Athletics. So we'll bounce around a little bit, and we'll make sure to give those writers love too, or if you like to read and listen along. Is anyone doing that? Feels like a weird study technique. If you are, let's enjoy the ride together. And at the top of the show, I think we are going to discuss John Boy Media times Major League Baseball. We're together. Let's do it now. If you have no idea, I'll aim wide. MLB, Major League Baseball, so I'll start real wide. Major League Baseball has invested and become a partner with John Boy Media, which for some of you might care a lot and give a little fist pump and be excited. For some of you, you might not care that much and, okay, just whatever, talk sports, funny man. It's a big moment for the company. We, as we became a real company, we went from Yankees to all of baseball. You know, we got a lot of love along the way, and we grew pretty fast in hindsight, and all of it's pretty cool, and all of it's because of whoever's listening right now. Like it's me and Jimmy laugh and look back at moments when we were, I think my original pay was like $300 a month via an ATM. And again, those are not necessarily banner times. In a way they are. But in a way, the way everything has gone for us has happened very quickly, and we've become a real company that I don't know what we expected at first, but at first MLB didn't really welcome us with open arms, and it kind of makes sense. Like, who are these guys? And I think Major League Baseball had operated differently, especially different from what we were doing. And again, I know if you're listening to this, you're like, well, yeah, you guys were killing it and you guys are doing it the right way. Well, MLB was still financially doing well and growing in a lot of aspects. And we were doing what we were doing. And I think that's where I like to start with this, is that we're still going to do what we want to do. Like one of the big question is what comes next. We'll talk about that a little bit. But what came first was when conversations got real and we were talking to the right people at Major League Baseball, because there was a while when we were talking to the wrong people. Once we started talking to the right people, the conversation starter was like, hey, we just want to keep doing what we're doing. Like, we don't, MLB had blocked a couple things, our access to a few things, which, again, that was their prerogative, and it is what it is. And we would just walk away and be like, okay, like if that's what you want to do, because we grew this thing, a little Bane. I was born in the dark, but like we built this thing without having access to players or events or whatever it may be. That we're hoping in future years we're gonna have more, hopefully bigger things at All-Star Weekend, and that's like a big MLB event that they controlled, and it was a little, well, you guys aren't really with us, so things like that would just get a little trickier, complicated. That on our side it was more so like, hey, like, don't even worry about it. As long as we can do our own thing, we're good. So that's where conversation started. So again, on Wake and Jake, presented by Cushy Dreams, like you're not going to hear it. It's not like you're going to be listening to me and be like, oh, I don't know, I think Jake's protecting the league there.
He's changed.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I have, but no, there's literally none of that. And when it first got brought up, like MLB very much brought it up and hammered it home, and even later conversations, we got hooked up with the guy who runs MLB Network, and he like laughed. He's like, yeah, dude. Like, he's like, we see it all the time. People think we're running some PR machine. He's like, no, like MLB Network, I let Harold Reynolds gets to talk about whatever he wants to talk about. Like, that's how it works. And for us, they're like, no, you guys keep rolling. So hey, maybe you guys please feel free to call us out in a couple years if it feels different. But that was like the first thing they got covered. From there, a lot of it's back end stuff. A lot of it is our sales teams, like working parallel to each other. It's our socials teams hopefully working together really well, because that's, it's one of the strengths of our company, that hopefully we can grow and promote together. And I guess that's the other big thing is just MLB. I won't say they treated us as a rival, but they didn't promote us. They weren't on the same team as us. They're now on the same team. So hopefully that opens up some avenues for natural growth and some other opportunities that we can just grow into if they feel right for us. And I think that's kind of where we left it. We're not super pushy for more. Like, we want to do the stuff we're doing. We want to do it better. And then as other opportunities come up and make sense, let's do it. And, I think across our company, there's things like the warehouse games. Like if a couple big dudes show up to one of our blitzball tournaments, like that makes it feel all the more real. Or some, even our warehouse challenges we're starting now. That, now if we grow, that's part of MLB that's growing. So the fact they're in on all of that stuff, they're in on merch with us. Who knows what other opportunities are going to come up. And if there's some of you that are like, oh, tell us more. Again, Jimmy calls a lot of the shots. I'm involved in a lot of the shots. Courtney has been amazing at CEO for us. When it comes to ideas or concepts or execution, it's still, what we kind of built a lot of this on was grow. Our warehouse games that, again, if you're not into it, whatever, I dare you to check it out, because you might get sucked in pretty good. It's an amazing product. What goes into it and how consumable it is, it's awesome. Little biased, but check it out. That's all I would say.
A lot of different videos there. There's something on there you will like.
We've built up a whole world, like a whole different society. That started from me and Jimmy literally going into the alley behind our old office to break up the day and doing a couple at bats against each other. That, whatever you think of it, if you're not a warehouse games person, it's how many hundreds of thousands of subscribers, videos get X amount of views, like it's crushing it, and it's its own world. And that started from me and Jimmy basically doing bullpens against each other in the alley just to like sweat after lunch and not fall asleep. So one of our early company mottos was always grow. And if we're partners with Major League Baseball, we think there's just going to be some easy growth opportunity stuff that we can do within the game and with our own stuff. And that's what we're excited for. But it is one of those funny things that people are like, what's next? And it's like, we'll see. I'm interested to see. I'm excited to find out. We're still going to crush everything we normally do. And the other opportunities as they come, I want to get people excited for merch. That I think there's going to be some really cool opportunities there that's, with the teams and stuff, which can really open up our graphic designers' creativities and stuff like that, maybe you'll see us pop up in places that you didn't expect. Maybe there's a postseason hit somewhere. Maybe there's, who knows? We're excited to see. We're excited to mostly keep doing our own stuff, and then help baseball wherever we can, because it was never our mission from the start. It's not like we took a scout's honor and we're like, to grow the game. That never happened. But in a weird way, doing a lot of the stuff we wanted to do has been a part of that. So it's good to be on the same team. And we're excited to see what's next. And, again, a lot of you probably don't care. Once we got talking to the right people at baseball, the conversations were really good. And it's a lot of people that support what we're doing, but it's just figuring out, maybe there will be a weird episode of Succession. John Boy Media meets MLB one day. I guess not Succession. Does anyone watch Billions? What's that show about?
Oh,
I don't know. I've never watched
one of
it.
those.
But yeah, if you want some intense how deals get done stuff, I think John will probably have a full tell-all one day that it'll be an interesting chapter. But I'm glad it's here. It's made so much sense from the start. there's so many people that, have been supporters or fans of what we've done, that there's a lot of people that were shocked yesterday that we're not already like friendly with Major League Baseball. So we're excited to go for it. We're excited to talk more ball. And with that, excited to talk about the Players Poll, the annual Players Poll that The Athletic has been running out the past couple years now. A lot of these are from before the season. So again, I'm curious, and we might have to check in with some friends of like, why not do the ballots that day and figure it out? Hey, maybe it's smart. Maybe it's that time of year where summer's really hitting, family vacations are starting, that it's the time to hit people in the mouth with baseball. Speaking of getting hit in the mouth, how about Cushy Dreams? The best in legal cannabis just got better. Our friends at Cushy Dreams, great THC products that ship directly to you. I mean, that's what you want. The gummies, you love them, we love them. If you've seen anything on our JJTV channel, they are in the mix. They have also got the flower, whatever you're looking for, sativa, indica, hybrid. They've got different sizes of it, so smoke as much as you want. Everyone responds differently. Your tolerance, and there's a whole formula that if you've put time into figuring out, you've probably found yourself in a great spot with Cushy Dreams. If you haven't, you got to ease in, and you got to figure out what works for you. So go check out Cushy Dreams, and also, how about you take 20% off? The gummies, sure. The smokable stuff, great. Or the entire store. Everything in there at Cushy Dreams. Use code JOHNBOY at checkout. Take 20% off. Try it for yourself. Maybe try it for a friend. How do you like that? Thank you, Cushy Dreams. All right. Let's talk some ball, people. I mentioned the Players Poll. It's a weird mix of juicy and not juicy. Maybe we'll make up our own scale as we go. I think Beebs thinks the juiciest stuff may come from the teams and the manager side of things. That's a little more racy, gossipy. I think we'll ease into that. I want to start with the player-on-player action. That's what I care about. And again, they state themselves. This isn't a scientific poll. 135 players across 21 teams, and they all have anonymity. So who knows? I'm sure there's a couple players who take this as a goof or a gaffe. There isn't anything in life, in any vote really. But also, I think for some of the big numbers, it ends up making sense. So the first poll that they released on the player side is, which player do you like to watch play? I think if you're a baseball fan, you would have got the number one pretty easily. The number one is Shohei Ohtani. He had 29 votes out of the 135. I don't know if I need to explain it. He is freaky. You guys know the Wake and Jake secret is every time we talk about Ohtani, usually the final sentence is, oh yeah, and he's one of the fastest guys in the league too, which just doesn't make sense. He is currently rehabbing, and his pitching timeline has become a hot in the streets conversation. He's up to 44 pitches. He pitched a 3-inning sim game against his Dodgers teammates. Where I've landed is build him up that he's ready to be a starting pitcher, and that's how you find out. If he throws a 75 pitch session against the Dodgers hitters, where he throws 5 or 6 sim innings, whatever it is, and he's recovering properly, it hits a point of like, you got to find out a little bit. So I know people think it's because the Dodgers are now in a rush for pitching because they've had the injury bug very badly. I think they know what they're doing. I think they know there's a long-term play with Ohtani. On the other side of it, like if you're someone that's like, whoa, what are you doing? Like, okay, if Shohei throws 85 pitches and, again, he's felt completely healthy, okay, are we now wasting bullets? Like, that's what I would hit you with. Like, I don't know how long any pitcher is going to be pitching for that. I don't know. If he's throwing, he looks right, he feels right, and he's ready to go, then you go. Then zero need to rush. Like if there's any hiccups or something feels, You don't need to. The Dodgers are still in first place, not by a ton, by the way. As we record this, I think a half game on the Giants, 1 game on the Padres. So that could all change tonight. So yeah, I think you understand why Shohei was rated the number 1 player to watch. Also for me, something I've noticed is that the ball just jumps off his bat differently. You guys notice I point out him, Corbin Carroll. I saw someone else the other day. It was a righty that I was just like, oh, it's not what you'd expect. That's where someone like Judge is kind of different. Like when Judge crushes one, which he did last night at Kansas City, it almost makes sense. Like he's the biggest guy in the league. It's a big swing. Okay, ball go far. Shohei, also a big guy, and that shouldn't be underestimated. But yeah, sometimes I see the ball go off his bat, and I'm like, is that going to drop for a single? And it's out of the stadium. So he is different. I do think there was a surprising number 2. Number 2, Bobby Witt Jr. How about that? We like the 5 tools. We love Bobby. Some of the player comments: steals bags, hits for power, play good shortstop. If that's not good player talk, then I don't know what is. I mean, he can do everything. That's what a lot of these quotes are. I do. We're in the age where a lot of athletes. Well, I guess there's an interesting, and it's not my conversation to have, but. You know, in the NBA, one of the combos is if Anthony Edwards becomes the face of the league, is he going to like tone it down or be kind of more, I don't want to say plain Jane, but, Anthony Edwards has a couple things that he doesn't hold back on and crowds don't hold back on him, that if he does kind of elevate his game one more level, which he might, Simmons and Russillo have had some very interesting conversations about him being the face of the league. Bobby Witt, he's got the wants to be the face, like does the right thing. They're signing autographs late after every game. Not I'm saying Anthony Edwards doesn't. Get off Anthony Edwards, guy. I do think Bobby has entered a weird spot, and the Royals have been going the wrong direction. The AL wildcard standings are a mess right now. I know it's a little too early to do that, but also the Angels are 3 games out of the AL wild card. Your Angels, people. Half a game behind the Angels right now is the Red Sox and the Rangers. So, baby snaps for the Halos. They don't get a ton of love. But if you're someone that had Red Sox or Rangers stock, I kind of had both. Like they are a hot 2 weeks from being in the dance, as the AL Central has all gone the wrong direction. The Royals are 34-33. And the offense around Bobby Witt has just not been there yet this year. I think, I don't know, we always talk about shortstops kind of being graded different. Or I've been mad that shortstops can accumulate WAR a little easily if you play a very solid shortstop defense and you have an 85 OPS plus, you can rack up 4 WAR, which give me the corner outfielder that plays average defense and has an 880 OPS that gets 4 WAR, because I think that team beats the team of the shortstops. But on the other side of that, shortstops are like quarterbacks, where at the end of the year, if you look at how many guys can play defensive shortstop and hit offensively, I think you'll land in the same realm of like good quarterbacks. It's just tough to do it.
We're in an age with like weirdly more of it than ever, but that's still not a lot when you look back at the end of a year.
Yeah, but by the end of the year, when you look at how many guys have done it, and both leagues and positions, it's just really hard to do. And Bobby is still, the OPS just got to 840 on the year. The stolen bases are there. He's got 21 of those on the season. Bobby Witt's a special player. And I think there is something even more special to just being a shortstop, going back to Little League and the whole baseball conversation. I would have assumed Aaron Judge would have finished second because of how freakish he is. Ronald Acuna Jr., Ellie De La Cruz, Mookie Betts, and then Judge and Lindor. I was a little surprised to see that. I mean, hey, I don't need to give you an Ellie De La Cruz argument. I mean, that we haven't really seen his body type play the game like this ever. Yeah, I guess with Judge, I was just surprised, the first comment, I wish I was as big and strong as him. Okay, other MLB player. Like, come on. He does things that only he can do on a baseball field. I feel lucky that I get to watch him every day. So that sounds like a teammate, if you're reading through the tea leaves there. But yeah, I don't know. It almost falls in we get to watch Judge every day. His at-bats are so electric. The defense, the arm, it really is all there. Even base running. Like, I know that sounds corny, but Judge does all of it too, and in a way it feels more special because we haven't seen power. Like, he broke the AL home run record. He's almost hitting 400. That, like, all respect to, there's an argument that Bobby Witt has, like, all 5 tools better. But what Judge is doing right now, and again, I think this was before the season that, Betts, Mookie Betts, 5 tool. He can bowl too. It is underestimated, like, how much of a power hitter he's become and, like, what's his actual size. Is Mookie 5'9", 170? Like, he's not a big guy. Like, not a big guy. And he's become a slugger in this league along with everything else he can do. Do we have a listed?
Listed 5'10", 180, so... And something that just caught my eye looking at his baseball reference today. I didn't realize he's only played shortstop so far, which
Crazy.
is somehow
Crazy.
Just a freak.
Also doesn't make sense.
I assumed he was doing the same thing as last year, moving around as needed. Nah.
Other guys who got votes: Skubal and Trout with 4, Tatis, DeGrom. Blake Treinen gets a lot of love on this. That again makes me wonder who was voting in the poll, and if someone maybe want to get a goof in there. Also, maybe not, because you'll see where he is later, and you won't be shocked by it. Skeens, Michael Harris, Duran, Buxton, Cole, Harper. Wow. So I always find that as a fun one. Again, I think the sorting near the top gets it done for you. This next one, player-wise, I also enjoyed a lot because it's a concept that if you guys listen to one of the Me and Foolish Bailey episodes, the way he phrased it changed the way I look at baseball a little bit. What hitter would you least want to pitch against in Game 7 of the World Series? So, who's that guy that you don't want to see? 64 pitchers answered. The number 1 vote getter, Juan Soto. And the phrasing that Bailey said that I will remember forever, he is the best hitter at not getting out. As historic as Judge has been, and he's continuing to get better, so I don't want to cap Judge here, but I have a follow-up on him in a second. Juan Soto's the best at not getting out. Shohei got the second most votes. He was 1 vote behind Soto, and I guess you could point to... some of the quotes here are from pitchers. Like the first Ohtani quote is, "Oh, I have nothing for him. That's a tough at bat for me." So we do have guys that base this on their own stuff, which again, that's kind of supposed to be how voting's supposed to work.
The question is, who do you least want to face?
Our country's gotten a little far away from that. But yeah, so that's the pitcher perspective on it. Shohei also, he's got some clutch moments in there. Whether you want to do WBC, World Series, whatever, Andy Shohei, for every reason we talked about. Judge finished 3rd on this. Again, I wonder if the survey was taken today, what would people say? Because he's doing it at a more historic pace now. I will say this, living in New York City, got some love on the subway today from some Yankee fans. Hey, how are you? I've mentioned it with the Subway Series. The city perks up a little bit when the Subway Series is going on. I've got a good relationship with the doorman in my building. Me and Noodle have to go outside to pee every night. So you usually come in, you watch the game, what's on right now. Hey, how you doing? Bing bong, bing bong. And I like it. I like talking sports with people. Judge got 6 votes, which had him at third. People need to see him do it in the postseason for real, for real. Baseball is a team sport, and a lot of time the best team or the hottest best team or however you want to phrase it, they're going to win and get it done. It's hard to win as one player, but, Aaron Judge's postseason numbers, and we've done a lot of butter knifing on this, but okay. This is 58 games, 205 batting average, 318 on base, a 450 slugging for a 768 OPS. I think we've got some butter knives in there. I think 2022, we were defending Judge coming into this postseason with some, I think he was banged up and the team around him sucked, and we did a lot of that dance. At a certain point, the dance has to end. And he needs to have a big postseason. And he's had big games. He had a big series against Boston in 2018. But again, Aaron Judge should be measured differently. And these numbers are not Judgian. Not close to. He's almost hitting 400 this year. He's hitting 205 in the postseason. So some of those late night combos in the downstairs of my building, I've heard clutch, and Judge has to prove it. In a way, he does. What he's doing right now is so historic; it's insane. But at a certain point in time, New York City, the Yankees, you gotta put an October together, Pop, and he hasn't done that yet. If he does it once, I think he's the number one answer. Because if his stats continue, not even at this rate, but he's currently leading in on base, slugging. This would be his 3rd season he's led the league in on-base, slugging, and OPS, which, okay, maybe you didn't need to know that last stat because if you know how they combine them. But the whole point of Soto is the on-base, and when he locks in, he doesn't get out. Well, Judge is getting there. He just has to prove it in October, and he kind of hasn't yet. And I think he would tell you that. So that was a little dramatic, but it happened. Let's see. Other players listed here. Yordan probably deserves more respect, although he had a slow start this year and he's been hurt, but he has a World Series winning home run.
Yeah. Like, the numbers this year so far are very odd, but that doesn't change the way I feel about him yet.
Career OPS in the 9s. Yordan's always the oh yeah, that guy. And he hasn't played for Houston. They're in first place. They're going to trade for Brandon Lau or Ryan O'Hearn, and they're going to be good. Anyways, Mookie and Freddie, don't really need to explain. Jose Ramirez, Witt, Harper, sure. Pitcher for Game 7 of the World Series. Number one answer. Again, this one was a little surprising and comes off of spring training. Chris Sale. How do you like that? 8 votes of 50 respondents. Skubal second. Wheeler, Chapman, Duran, and Skeens with 3. And then their guys with 2. Strider, Trinan. Told you he'd come back. Framber, DeGrom, King, Glasnow. And a few guys with 1 vote. And again, if you're one of these players or one of these players' families, I mean this in a respectful way. There's a couple guys that received 1 vote. And some of them, Edwin Diaz, Brusdar Graterol, sure. I like Tim Meza. I don't know if he was part of this exercise. Josh Tomlin got a vote. Is he in the league? Is he in the league? We'll get to that when we get to managers in a second. But
I guess it doesn't have to be limited to right now players.
Chris Sale, it's I guess I just like this as another badge of respect for how good his stuff was, how good his last year was, how just gross he is. How good is your good? The old Scott Van Pelt line. When Chris Sale's at his best, it's an arm angle you don't see. It's nasty pitches. And it can just be unhit. Like as a lefty, I have no clue what you're supposed to do. And as a righty, you're trying to pick up sliders or fastballs from the first baseman. That was for me, that was a reminder, because the other guy that stood out, because Skubal should be there. Like Skubal he's on his own historic pass now. And again, next year's vote might have a little more of that. Aroldis Chapman stood out to me. Let's see what goes on with Boston these next few weeks as they try to play themselves into contention. And as I just told you, they're 3.5 games out of the wild card. So if Boston gets a hot spurt, they're here for the season. Aroldis Chapman becomes very interesting because I think they're going to get a lot of offers for him, because there are a lot of the best teams in baseball need a wipeout lefty reliever. Yankees, not going to happen. New York Mets, that's interesting, right? The Detroit Tigers. So if Boston is in this kind of buy and sell or do whatever's best for the team mode, I think Chapman would get moved at this deadline. And the fact that people are still scared of him. And if you go through the best lefty relievers in the game, you'd be very surprised how much time it takes you before you get to Aroldis Chapman. It's Hader. And then, we've given nice Tyler Holton speeches before. There's a few other guys, but Chapman still throws 100, kind of effectively wild, with a wipeout slider and a knuckle splitter he throws. Like he made Volpe throw his bat the other day. So Skeens up there too. That makes sense. Trinan, someone said his slider for 9 innings. So again, I don't know. Again, sometimes the players take their own path to get to different answers. But I thought there was some serious Sale and Chapman respect there. The BBD beef part of the article. Managers. We love our managers. And let's see if they get more involved with this ABS system coming next year. This is a fun one every year. Which manager, aside from your own, would you most want to play for? And I think the interesting theme at the top of this list, of 121 respondents, 20 picked Bruce Bochy. And sure, you probably know what people are going to say about that. He's seen everything. He's a likable guy, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's what they said for number 2, Terry Francona. He got 17 votes. The only other guy in their area code was Stephen Vogt. And then it's Council, Snitker Roberts, Cora, the 2 New York managers. That I thought it was interesting to see the old school managers get the respect. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the fact that, hey, dude, there's a reason Tito Francona is a legend in this game. There's a reason Bruce Bochy is a legend in this game. One of the quotes on Francona, he commands the room almost like a friend. He's still an authoritative figure, but I would say he's more like a young grandpa. Pretty good quote. Bochy, someone said a lot of championships, and I like an old school style. Guys kind of want to be managed. There's times when you need to be tough on people. I know, not my strength, working on it. Because the other side of that is the young manager trend that we saw before the old managers came back, before Dusty came back, before Tito. Not before Tito. Nothing's before Tito in baseball. But Vogt gets the most young guy votes. And again, one of these votes is, I played with Stephen Vogt. I love Stephen Vogt. So that gets a little tricky if that guy's managing you properly. But if you're veteran enough to share that, I think things sort themselves up. And I don't know, Stephen Vogt was the guy that was recognized around baseball as the guy.
Yeah, the next quote from there seems like also from a guy who played with or around him, saying everyone knew he was going to be a manager.
Yeah,
so.
And it almost became a goof while he was still playing that he was the next one. Craig Counsell, his teams have fun. His teams win, have fun, play with an edge. Boom. I like that a lot. I love the old dogs getting a little love. And, like, I think they respect the experience. Like, if Bruce Bochy says something, you listen. But yeah, the resurgence of the old manager, I hope that comes back a little bit. And again, just a reminder with the players voting, one person did vote Joe Torre. So Papa Joe's been out of the game for a minute.
Yeah, seems like some guys took these as like that you ever could have played for, which is a valid answer.
Open the board a little bit. So I guess, again, not super surprising. Managers, aside from your own, you would not want to play for. Number 1, Bud Black, which, again, the player quotes here are, I'd be pitching in Colorado. So
some of it spills into the organizational part of the conversation.
Someone said he doesn't stop talking, which that's kind of funny. He was tied for first with Ali Marmol. Marmel's been on a kind of a wide ride as a manager. Like, the Cardinals are one of the premier franchises in baseball. They're not viewed that way. They're having a bounce back season. We haven't heard his name in a while. God, I was rolling there. It was interesting to see because he had a couple things he came in hot on. I think he benched Tyler O'Neill kind of controversially a couple years ago, and they just started losing, which that's the big thing. He had a couple.
Yeah, just everything about Wilson Contreras. What's that? What's the front office?
Right.
A very odd way to treat the guy you just signed, whoever is responsible.
And maybe this is where I should dip away because the Marmol quote is, I don't really know many managers. I'm trying to think of someone in our division. Who's the Cardinals guy? Yeah, put him down. So that's, again, I think a lot of these are just bad team. Gabe Kapler getting 3 votes, not having managed since 2023. Don't love that for Trev's guy.
The other one in this segment that kind of surprised me was Ron Washington. I know he's had some moments of like putting guys down or whatever, and then I connected, as you can see in the quote section. I think they asked this probably right after the cell phone thing.
The player said no cell phones, which they did at spring training. They're not doing during the season, we found out recently. So, a player's poll, again, you got to sort through a couple things. But there are things that you don't have to sort through, like which organizations have a good reputation or bad reputation. 126 votes for good, 115 votes for bad. Dodgers, 82 good, 0 bad. Adds up, right? Yankees, 40 good, 3 bad. And one of the comments there is anyone that's been on the Yankees loves them. And we've heard a lot of players talk about, like the Yankees try to handle themselves as a class organization in that faction. And they do. Braves, 25 good, 0 bad. I wonder if that changes if they were to have a bad season. Cubs, 22 good, 0 bad. So this is before, the Cubbies were still, we haven't seen it. This should be the year. 22 good, 0 bad is a sign of the players that have come and go from Chicago have enjoyed their time from there, which I've been tough on that front office, but that means your ownership and front office care.
It's like similar story for Boston too. They're 15 good, 0 bad. I expect some guys to get caught up in, and I know these teams update stuff, but like just old ballpark, old facilities, not necessarily the most comfortable. Like that sometimes can get you the bad vote when that's ultimately nothing that's any organizational employee's fault. You're not moving out of Wrigley or Fenway,
right.
But
Guardians and Mets both 17-1. So hey, how about the turn for the Metropolitans? Like we talk about it, but what was that poll a few years ago? Rangers have some good numbers. Astros, Phillies, Giants, Twins 4-0. The negative. Seattle 0 yes, 3 no. I don't know. Just something to pocket. More so, the teams that you would expect to a T, that I think if you asked me, I'd like to think if you asked me the 5 teams, the Athletics were 39. The reasons there are pretty obvious. The White Sox with 31 no's, and all of these teams got 0 yeses. The Rockies, the Marlins, the Pirates, and the Angels all got 19 or more no's. and 0 yeses. I don't know. I don't know how often I'm going to do this during my lifetime. The Angels, I mean, they've made themselves a bit of a joke. I think it starts at the top. There's been different rumors heard, but I mean, there's other people that just say they operate in like a different era of baseball. The Pirates, the rumor is that it's a nice experience, but winning doesn't take a priority. And I think you just feel that as an organization. You feel that right now. Their starting rotation is killing it. They don't have the lineup to compete. The Marlins and the White Sox is where I'm going to get a little hostile because, again, we just have this image of the Marlins in our head as like MLB's podunk, punchy franchise. It's Miami. It does not have to be that way. Miami for the NBA is a hub. It's this city with this great Cuban community. Like, the Marlins should be a part of the fabric, and they are just not.
I mean, one of the quotes on them, which is one of the better quotes in here, I think, Miami has no direction. All their prospects are 17, so they're 7 years from doing anything.
I mean, it's hopeless. A lot of these places feel hopeless, and that's the part that stinks. And that's where the White Sox, I think they have now an argument for being the most frustrating. I mean, they're starting to call up some young guys. This team's in Chicago. Look where the Cubs are on this board. Like, some of their weird spending facts are so sad that the White Sox have no business being here in Colorado. I think you guys know. My dream retirement job, because we just need to try different things, and we're not doing that. And one of the quotes in here says their player development is years behind, and that was my thing about Chase Dollander, the first top 100 pitcher they've had in a decade. How?
So that's not even making a good pitcher. That's making a good prospect.
And he wasn't even like, he's one of these like quick risers out of Tennessee that maybe he just stayed away from the coaching.
The quote below that one, I never understand what they're doing as an organization. They've been bad for a long time.
Yep. Full agree. The other articles go on. We've got some rules stuff because ABS is back in the news because, my new coworker, Uncle Rob, said that it's probably coming. They asked the players, are you in favor of robo-umps calling balls and strikes? Which, again, that's kind of a different question. That's like full automation. 17% said yes, which it's a little higher than I thought. I guess some players are and if we're being honest, if you talk yourself through it, you're kind of like, okay, so it gets every pitch right, and I don't want that. Like, yeah, that's a little bit of a mind F.
On both ends, you can get guys that don't want every pitch right. They specialize in tricking them.
It's just weird, and it's a weird part of the sport that we want to keep the game moving, and if it gets every call right. Again, I talked myself into a corner because I really like the challenge system that's coming out, and that's not just because I'm a shield for the league now. I just think a la the pitch clock, and this is the new comparison I'm making, the pitch clock was to cut out the fat and the bad parts of the game, just waste. And it's done that. It really has. I was worried about the pitch clock more than I think a lot of baseball fans. Not a lot, but there was a lot of people were ready for it. There was a loud crowd against it because baseball doesn't have a clock and blah, blah, blah. It's been great. It's been great. Like, zero complaints. Even in those late part of games, whether it's using your timeouts properly or whatever it is, like it still works. I want to see the challenge system because in that same concept, I just want to cut out the fat. I want to cut out the bases loaded, 5th inning, 2 outs, 2-0 pitch gets called a strike when it's a ball. That should be 3-0. Like, a missed call shouldn't potentially affect a game as much as it does in that moment. And I think with the appeal system, and that's where the manager conversation we just had, like, analytics teams and managers are going to have different rules. Like, you've seen it in spring training, but I think when games actually matter, teams or players are going to have rules around it, because if you get it wrong and then you find yourself in the back half of the game without your challenge, that's when things can get decided. So very interested to see how that develops. Was a little surprised how many players were on the yes button, but it also, when you really think about it, at its core, it's why say no.
And I think like with specifically the system they had in spring, I remember there was some reporting that like it was led by Corbin Burns, weirdly, that like they knew it was like a half-inch margin of error, and he was like, "That's everything."
Right.
So
that's
I think
the game.
I'm trying to remember when that was hot in the streets, but
There was, I forget if it was a minor league or spring training appeal, but it said the ball was off by 4 nanometers, and it's like, okay, that starts to get really tricky. Because what? How do I know? Yeah, the rest of that article goes on. It asks what else players would like to see change, less games, more off days. I'd be interested to see if they stretch out the schedule, because they've been doing it a little bit, just a little more. And that way, minor leagues does every Monday off. And again, a lot of baseball people are creatures of habit. Like, do we get to a world where that happens? Or maybe there's still games on Monday, because if you're MLB, you can own that. But 3 out of 4, like I think we can get into more of a routine with off days that would be better for players and fans. In spring training, although it doesn't help the pitcher injury thing, like we still have some buffer to work with there that I think we're making baby steps. And also maybe it's something we can do with the All-Star break a little more. There's got to be some creative ways, because unfortunately they're not going to pull back games. Whether for setting records on the player side or for making money on the owner side. So I think we have more creative solutions for off days just by stretching it out just a couple more days. And then they're talking about promoting players more, and old school baseball unban the shift. They said it was an unpopular take. Good for you, pal. Anonymous. And then there is one last, again, I think this is split over 4 or 5 articles. And I will tell people to go and read it, because it's something that got opened up the closer we got to the game. But the lifestyle is a lot. It's a lot of travel. That, we've talked to former players that are like so relieved that the travel is over. I mean, just think about anytime you've traveled and not wanted to, and again, they're traveling on different terms, but there's times when they land at 4 a.m. and there's your sleep cycle's messed up. And like, I don't know, a player has a newborn kid. Okay, they get their 3 days off and then they come back. Like, what's home like? Mm-hmm. And we still expect them to perform that.
Still having to like fly, land somewhere every 3 days, basically 4 days, whatever.
Right, and I don't know, like any.
Honestly, getting paid what you get paid helps.
But I don't know. Again, this is a little bit of a first world problem if we're being honest about it. But it is interesting the more and more we've talked to players, and I guess maybe this is where I'll land it, because it's easier for me to throw Trevor Goof under the bus. But Trevor Plouffe, when we first got linked with him, he played. Did Trev play in 2018, or he was in camp in 2018? I
think he was in camp.
So he played 7 games with the Phillies.
Camp the next year. Because he was at Phillies camp the day Harper signed.
Right. And then he went to spring training with Texas, and they said they messed around with him a little bit. And for me, when we first linked up with Trev, I was like, because these guys are the most competitive people in the world. And they're good at what they do. And Trev, Trev's body was feeling good because he was getting rest. He didn't want to do the minor league game, which I understood partially. Like, he just did a year of that. But I didn't understand the full side of it. They're like, hey, Trev likes his life and his family, that he wanted to spend more time with them. They dedicated a lot of their time to supporting his life through his MLB career. And he was just happy that, I used to poke Trev and I'd be like, hey, dude, Yanks call tomorrow. We need a first base, third base, right fielder who can hit lefties. Like, you're going, right? And, at first he would initially look at me and be like, kind of if the Yankees call. If they said if they said, hey, you get a week and a half and you're going to be on the team, yes. He didn't want to do the minor league fight anymore. But after that, when it became, I think just more and more real, and Trev knew also that call wasn't coming. That's just not how baseball works. Especially this was peak era of like pay 2 young guys instead of paying 1 old guy when Trev was on his way out. That then whenever I would poke Trev with that, he'd be like, dude, I'm good. I don't need to be on the road every week. Like, away from my family. And what am I even doing? Am I on a bad team on their bench? Like, Trev was pretty happy with his MLB career that he was happy. That I think a lot of these guys, we talked to a few relievers. Like, again, the reliever lifestyle is really tough. Like, we think of the top-end guys. Everyone else is just fighting for a day-to-day job. That if you do that for a decade and you might hit waivers and you're on another team tomorrow or you're signing 1-year contracts every year, can really wear you out. So I know a lot of you listening don't care because you're like, hey, you know what? Give me the $700K paycheck and I will figure it out. And I'm with you a little bit. But just know that they've been doing this now. If you're a reliever who's 33, which, 33, you still should have some juice in your body, especially as a pro athlete. If you got drafted out of high school, you've been road dogging it for 15 years. I did road travel for work for about 2, and there was weeks I was done. I was just toast. So, I know it's not why you watch. I know it's not what you care about. I would be interested to see if there's anything baseball can do, whether that's longer home stands or longer road. I don't know. And maybe part of it's going to be, if they add a couple more teams, changing the leagues and the divisions to allow a little more local travel. Because guess what? A flight from New York to Boston is different than the flight to LA, Arizona, Seattle. Like, you all know this. If you've done any travel, you know this. So, again, I want to give a big shout out to The Athletic for helping us become a part of this. Dennis Lynn, Casey Borowski, Chad Jennings, Andy McCullough, Tyler Kepner, and the rest of the Athletic MLB staff. Go check them out, and you should subscribe. If you're sporty enough that you're listening to this, there's going to be some stuff on The Athletic.
Like, you just listen to us talk about one article that's on there. They have others.
They're like my number one, no-brainer. Like, I could... The bank account can be pretty thin, and I'm going to want those articles to get me through sports and life, and that's what we do here too. So we thank you guys. Make sure you're subscribed. We love you. Thanks for everything, and we'll see you back Monday. Baseball. Hey, Rod.